Hey guys, Slickshot here. In today's video, we are going to talk about rolling diagonal slopes and how you can use them to update your roads and highways in Wurm. So before we jump straight into diagonal rolling slopes, I kind of wanted to give a primer for standard slopes and standard rolling slopes on straight roads, just to have a comparison. For example, the normal road or highway you'll see in Wurm looks like this. Very flat, very straight climb between two planes. This one, for example, rises at 16 slopes or 16 dirts, every tile all the way to the top. The maximum you normally see would be 20, and then you get variances between higher or less than that, just depending on the needs of the road and where you're traveling through. If we turn around, however, over here you see an example of a rolling slope on a straight road. You see that bend or that curve as the road climbs. Instead of increasing the integer or the slope level by the same amount every tile, you increase it just little bits incrementally over time. So right here we have 1 slope, 2 slope, 3, 6, 9, 12, 9, 6, etc. So as it's climbing, the integer is increasing exponentially until it reaches a point halfway usually and starts to bend back down, so it gives it that natural curve look. Now that's a straight road. We'll kind of carry on through the woods here to a project I've been working on, and I'll show you more of what it looks like on a diagonal road such as this. Okay, this is the same road I was on just a moment ago, going through the woods. I just haven't completed it yet. For this example, I only paved the 2 bisections. It's a diamond beside a diamond. This middle section and these outer halfway sections will be filled in later for the completed road. But for this example, it's easier to highlight where we're starting at. So you can see as you look up this steady curve, right? It curves up and then it kind of bends back down to where it's flat at the top. This road in particular rose 36 dirts from the bottom to the top, the 2 layers that I needed to meet. I find that even numbers are the best way to do a diagonal rolling slope like this because everything is done in pairs, in halves or twos. So this one, for example, is 36, so it's easy to break into twos. I chose a slope of 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 6, 4, 2, 2. It mirrors itself, and I'll explain that when we go over the tiles here. So we start here at the bottom with flat, right? You can see it's flat. What we're going to do is between the corner of this tile and the corner of that tile, we are going to come up 2 dirt. But we have a border in between, 2 borders in between before we hit the edge of that tile. So we can't come up all 2 dirt at once. We need to come up 1 dirt to the halfway point and 1 dirt slope to the top of the tile. That gives us our 2 dirt increase, right? Now from that, we're going to go up another 2. So the same concept, we're going to come up 1 to the halfway point of this diamond. We're going to come up 1 to the peak. So we came up another 2 dirt. So if you're tracking, we started at 0. We came up 2 from point to point and another 2. So we were up 4 dirts higher than we were before. So here we're going to do the same concept, but we're going to increase the integer so the bend starts to become a little more apparent over time. Remember, like I said, on a straight road, usually your integers would stay roughly the same. 16, 16, 16 is what the other road was. This is going to bend, and so the integer needs to increase and then decrease eventually to flatten back out. Anyhow, so we start at the peak of this one. We're up 4 dirts higher than we were at the base. But we're going to come up another 4 just in this one tile. So we come up 2 to the halfway point, and we come up 2 to the far peak. This one's going to come up 6, so we come up 3 and 3 to 6. This one's going to come up 8 from that one, so we're going to come up 4 and 4. Now that's the part of the precipice of the hill where we're going to start to bend it back down. This is actually the midway point, this tile right here. And so we're going to mirror what we just had. We had 2, 2, 4, 6. Now we're going to come down 6, 4, 2, 2 until it's flat. Something to remember with this, it's easy to get caught up thinking about it incorrectly, or at least I do, I get confused, is when you get to the highest point of your rolling slope, and you start to bend back down, you're still rising in total dirt. You're always gaining from the base from where you were, but the number, the integer difference between two tiles is decreasing to flatten back down, right? So by the time we get up here, we're still multiple dirts higher than the base, but we're going to start counting back down from 8 to 6. See, 3 and 3 for 6. Does that make sense? We're still increasing the dirt level. We're just lowering the amount of slope between the tiles as we go up until it flattens out up here. Now the other thing that gets kind of confusing with this, and this is the way I laid it out like this for you to see the double 2x diamond, is it's easy to get confused in the in-betweens. I like to flatten these out so between this corner and this corner is the same flat slope across, so the road looks even and you don't have these curled up edges like you might get across these corners here. So the best way to keep that in line is just remember you're basically repeating whatever this pattern is here in the center over on the sides. So this is 1 and 1, so this should be the same, 1 and 1. And as we go down, it's 1, 1, because oh, here we go. Here's a good example. 1, 2, right? Because we changed from dropping 2 to dropping 4. So the halfway point in between that, it still needs to climb. Each tile needs to climb the same slope. So 1 and 1 make 2, 2 and 2 make 4. But this can't drop down 1 and still end up with 4 between these points. Does that make sense? So it'll kind of throw you off a little bit. The other way to look at it is to look across the plane this way. Imagine this is a line straight through the two of these, or all these corners are straight, and all these corners across from part to part are straight. As long as the measurements are the same, you're good to go. Like this over here is 2 slope down. So this zigzag pattern is going to be the same, 2, 2, 2, 2. So I know that I've maintained the integrity of my flat slope between corners, this corner to this one, to this one, to this one. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show you some more examples on Deed Planner as far as kind of an overview mock-up. You can see it from the side a little better, from the top you'll see more of the bend between a shallow slope like this that's elongated and a very steep slope. And you'll get kind of a better idea and picture of where we're going with that. Okay, so this is the Deed Planner example that I mentioned earlier. We have 3 different slopes here. On the left, we have a rolling diagonal slope that is shallow. On the right, we have a rolling diagonal slope that is much steeper. The middle point where we start to reflect back down or bend the road is capped at 20 on this one, because we said earlier 20 is usually the max comfort for a highway. For diagonal roads and cat's eyes, you usually want to go a little less than that, but for the example, we went with 20 so you can see the bend. And on this straight road, this 2x straight, which you normally see, is the same exact slope as this shallow slope diagonal. Dive into here. You can see the bend in this very well in the steep. You can still see it in the shallow slope as well. And like I said, this 2x straight road is also this exact same bend and the same rise as the shallow diagonal one here. So earlier I said that it's much easier to do this with a straight road, a straight rolling slope instead of a diagonal. And the reason for that is you have less corners to manage across tiles. So as you see here, we have 1 corner, 2 corner, 3 corner across 2 tiles. So it's 2 borders, 3 corners to drop dirt to get this to raise. On this shallow slope, I went with evens. With a straight road like this, you can go with odds, you can change them up, you can rise 1 to 2 to 4 to 7 and just do odd numbers if you want. However you want to play with it, that's totally fine. It works really well on a straight road. Diagonal roads are a different story, and I'll explain that in just a moment. They're a lot trickier. So for this, if I want to raise from 0 flat, and I want to come up 2 slope on this first tile, I just drop 2 dirt in each one of these corners, and that's it. And then if I want to come up 4 slope, right, then I drop however much dirt you're working with to come up 4 slope over this 2. So in this case, since we're at a base of 0, we dropped 2 to come up off of 0. We're going to drop 6 to come up 4 dirts higher than the 2. Does that make sense? And then you'll exponentially climb. So I came up 2, came up 4 slope, 6 slope, 8 slope, 10 slope, and then I talked about mirroring and coming back down and bending, right? The thing to remember is your total dirt height or slope height is increasing by the integer that you choose. So in this case, I come up to 10 and I bend back down by going 8, 6, 4, 2, mirroring the bottom half to get the even curve. But your total height off of the floor where you started is still gaining. Does that make sense? So your slope is still going to be, when you look at it, it's still going to say up 2 or up 6 or up 8 instead of down. Does that make sense? So when I got up to 10 on my slope here, I went from 20 to 30. It's still going up to 38 total off the floor, but the slope is only 8 instead of 10. And then the slope is up 6, and the slope is up 4, and the slope is up 2, etc. But it's easy to do this on a straight road versus a diagonal road. Diagonal road, I recommended using evens for a reason, and you can do 2s, you can do 4s if you want. Just keep in mind you don't really want to go over 20 on a single slope, and so you kind of run out of room and you get a really tight curve sometimes if you're doing 4s. So I usually choose 2s, and the reason for that is, you notice we have the same concept, right? It's 2 tiles wide. It's just they're turned sideways into a diamond. So 1, 2, this is our main road. It leaves us with 1 corner, 2 corner, 3 corner, just like on the straight road. The difference here is to get from the bottom of one tile to the top corner of another, we have another corner in our way. Instead of having one border running up, we have 2 borders in between with a corner in the middle. So for the purpose of this, we're going to talk about these 3 main corners on the edges of a tile, and these are be called the middle corners in the middle of the tile. The same concept works on these single lane and zigzag lanes, and I'll show you that briefly in a second. But ideally what happens is, when we want to go from a 0 base like this, 0 on the floor, up 2, we can drop 2 dirt into this area, but then we need to drop 1 to make the climb in between. If we want to go from 2 to 4, we can drop our 4 to where we have 4 dirts higher than the 2, but then we need to add 2 dirts in this middle in between. Well, right here's the middle technically. So 0 to 2, we'd add 1 here. If we went 2 to 4, so we want to make this slope 4, not just plus 2, but plus 4, we have to add 2 to this inside corner. So you're climbing by halves all the way up. So if I drop dirt and I want to come up 8 slope, I'm going to come up 4 to the middle and then 4 to the end of my tile between the top and bottom corners. Does that make sense? Now, you don't have to do this way, but to get nice, flat, clean looks on these tiles where you're paving the nearest corner, you get these like half triangles, or these triangles, these half diamonds. I take this middle corner, whatever this height is on these slopes between them, and I do the exact same height, 1 tile wide, the next corner outside the road. So then you get this nice clean edge going on, and it's not quite so curled up. This half tile or this triangle stays flat. Same concept works, by the way. That's a true like double diamond or 2 by diamond on a diagonal. Works on a single. This is what you'd see on a single, and then obviously you just gotta get these corners filled in, right? This is more of a zigzag, so this is a 1 by, and your cat's eyes will go right in the middle anyway, so that works for a technical highway. The zigzag pattern works too, but if you notice, it's more of a tile and a half, right? Because you get 1 tile width, and then you get kind of a half tile width. Does that make sense? So same process, the same height changes all work. Your cat's eyes would go in these middle corners, it's just off center, but your heights would do the same thing. Across your axis here, you want these to be parallel and the same. And then as you rise to the next tile at the top, you want these to be the same. And this middle one to be the half the value of the slope between here and here. So from 0, plus 1, plus 1 to 2. Same thing works on this one. You just have to go a couple tiles wider, whereas this one is multiple tiles wide. Hopefully that demonstration makes a lot more sense and you can understand a bit better what you're looking at as far as doing these. These definitely take a lot more work and a lot more time to get these curves in the road. I think aesthetically they're very pleasing. They're very nice to walk on in the game as well. But yeah, that's just kind of up to you. But that's how that works. Well, now that you know more about how diagonal rolling slopes work, get out there, spruce up your roads and highways, build something beautiful. Or don't, you know, the sandbox is yours after all. If you enjoyed this video, or found it helpful, please hit the like button, or drop a comment about which tutorial help videos you'd like to see next.